Chapter 10. Money, the Federal Reserve, and the interest rate. An overview of money. Money has three distinguishing characteristics. 1. A means of payment, or medium of exchange. 2. A store of value, and 3. A unit of account. The alternative to using money is barter, in which goods are exchanged directly for other goods. Barter is costly and inefficient in an economy with many different kinds of goods. Commodity monies are items that are used as money and that have an intrinsic value in some other use, for example, gold and cigarettes. Fiat monies are intrinsically worthless apart from their use as money. To ensure the acceptance of fiat monies, governments use their power to declare money legal tender and promise the public they will not debase the currency by expanding its supply rapidly. There are various definitions of money. Currency plus demand deposits plus travelers' checks plus other checkable deposits compose M1, or transactions money that can be used directly to buy things. The addition of savings accounts and money market accounts, near monies, to M1 gives M2, or broad money. How banks create money. The required reserve ratio is the percentage of a bank's deposits that must be kept as reserves at the nation's central bank, the Federal Reserve. Banks create money by making loans. When a bank makes a loan to a customer, it creates a deposit in that customer's account. This deposit becomes part of the money supply. Banks can create money only when they have excess reserves in excess of the amount set by the required reserve ratio. The money multiplier is the multiple by which the total supply of money can increase for every dollar increase in reserves. The money multiplier is equal to 1/required reserve ratio. The Federal Reserve System. The Fed's most important function is controlling the short-term interest rate. The Fed also performs several other functions. It clears interbank payments, is responsible for many of the regulations governing banking practices and standards, and acts as a lender of last resort for troubled banks that cannot find any other sources of funds. The Fed also acts as the bank for the U.S. government. The demand for money. The demand for money depends negatively on the interest rate. The higher the interest rate, the higher the opportunity cost, more interest foregone from holding money, and the less money people will want to hold. An increase in the interest rate reduces the quantity demanded for money, and the money demand curve slopes downward. The demand for money depends positively on nominal income. Aggregate nominal income is PY, where P is the aggregate price level and Y is aggregate real income. An increase in either P or Y increases the demand for money. Interest rates and security prices. Interest rates and security prices are inversely related. If market interest rates rise, prices of existing bonds fall. How the Federal Reserve controls the interest rate. Prior to 2008, the Fed had three tools to control the money supply. 1. Changing the required reserve ratio. 2. Changing the discount rate, the interest rate member banks pay when they borrow from the Fed, and 3. Engaging in open market operations, the buying and selling of already existing government securities. To increase the money supply, the Fed could create additional reserves by lowering the discount rate or by buying government securities, or the Fed could increase the number of deposits that can be created from a given quantity of reserves by lowering the required reserve ratio. To decrease the money supply, the Fed could reduce reserves by raising the discount rate or by selling government securities, or it could raise the required reserve ratio. In the post-2008 period, large quantities of excess reserves have been held by banks. The Fed is now paying interest on these reserves. When the Fed wants to raise interest rates in the future, it will likely do so by